You know, you have the personality of a paperweight. I don't mean to be rude, but
Hey, Anthony, where'd you get this podcasting stuff from?
It fell off the back of a truck. Episode number 2 of Breaking Bread with Anthony and Sal. Sal, how many pounds are you down now?
I'm down 88 pounds. 88 pounds.
God bless. That's amazing.
Yeah, feel good.
I heard you got a couple new suits, too.
I did. Thanks to Sean at Caraco Suits, Mishpucha over there. It's a beautiful
wait,
thing.
hold on. I don't mean to interrupt, but you guys already plugging something like 60 seconds.
Right up front.
Right up front.
Goumba, I know where my bread is buttered.
You guys are shameless. I love you.
Can I ask you something, Goumba Johnny, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
That was my next thing.
Of stand-up comedy, of
radio,
of the radio, which brings me to, I guess we'll go right into that. When you were on the radio, right? How difficult was it to work in plugs? You know, like into the sponsors and everything. Was it planned out, or would you kind of just work it in off the cuff?
Well, you have on radio. You have live reads,
right?
So you get the copy, okay, and you have 60 seconds to get all the copy in. You know, with me, after a period of time, they would just give you bullet points, and then I would wing it. You know, once you're experienced. The problem was not so much working within the radio parameters. The problem was if I went to a pizzeria and I ordered a slice and a Coca-Cola, and the guy would go, "Goumba Johnny, I can't take your money. Just mention me on the radio."
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it costs $1,200 for a 60-second spot, and it costs a lot more money to use my voice. I said, so are you going to give me $2,000 worth of pizza? So, because I'm gonna put my job on the line for a slice of pizza. I said, please let me pay. And that was one of the, one of the tightrope things in the radio. You know, like when you're on the radio and you have an audience, the station had an audience of over 2 million people. Nobody wants to charge you for anything. You know what I mean? When they find out who you are. Oh, no, I don't want to charge you. Just say this and that. You know, which would be great if I went into a car dealership.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah. And the guy says, no, the caddy's yours. Just say hello to me on the radio.
I think Brooklyn's own Joe Causey has that market.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So
is that why he does all the Cadillac shows?
He's got it. Yeah, I think what is it? Gold Coast Cadillac. I
Yeah.
don't know. They don't get me a car, so I don't care to mention them.
Yeah.
But
cars for that?
No, but one of the things on the radio, and radio has obviously changed since I've been in it, is that there was quite a bit of perks with the radio. You know what I mean? And people would send you stuff. They wanted to use their stuff, to see if you liked it or possibly talk about it on the radio. So, that made it interesting. But it was a tightrope because you didn't want to lose your job or, do anything that would, be considered illegal.
Right, because at the end of the day, you're in sales for the station.
Yeah, and I will tell you this: if I went somewhere, and I liked a place, I mentioned it on the radio. I mean, in other words, just legitimately went to a restaurant and had like a wonderful experience. I would recommend it to the listeners. And, not because somebody asked me or so on and so forth. And then, the guy would get a great response. But I gave people their due. You know what I mean? And somebody did a good job. And, you know what? If you impressed me, you know what? I'm going to let the listeners know, like if you're looking for Italian food or Chinese food, or if I got good service getting my car repaired or whatever.
Or $2,000 worth of pizza.
Or $2,000 worth,
That sounds fair to me.
I don't.
It depends on where it's from, though, right?
Yeah. Well, if it's Johnny's Pizza in Mount Vernon, yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are familiar
Very
with
good.
that. Are you ever eat it?
No, I'm saying that was a very good plug.
Yeah.
No. They're friends of mine, and
did they hook you up?
No, I had my birthday party with them. Me and Anthony went there, and a couple of guys. It's the best pizza in Westchester.
Yeah.
And it got in Barstools. I got like a 9.2. So I got started on the radio in a very dyslexic way, just like I got started in comedy. I'll just give you the abridged version. I was in a nightclub hosting a dance contest, and at the end of the dance contest, somebody came up to me and said, did you ever think about being on the radio? And I'm like, well, why would I want to do that? And he goes, you got a great voice. He goes, your sense of humor would be perfect for it. And I'm like, look, what do you want to drink? I don't understand the point of this conversation. So he goes, no, here's my card. I work at Z100. Well, I want you to come down, and I'll show you around. And that guy who gave me the card, his name was Hollywood Hamilton, who's on the radio now.
Wow. And
he literally took me under his wing, and I would go in at night and, figure out. And, he was on Z100 at night. And then I would do voices, write a little comedy, so on and so forth. And then, he more or less moved around. He went out to Kiss FM, and I did some work with him out there. And another station in Riverside. And then there was an audition at KTU. And he asked me to, he goes, I have an audition for a brand new radio station called KTU. I'd like you to come on the air with me. I've been in LA for X amount of years. If I have you, I'll really sound local. I'll sound like a New York show. He goes, I'm afraid that I won't be New York enough. So I said, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I said, he goes, oh, no, I'll take care of you. I said, no, I'll give you money to pay somebody else, because it was in the mornings. I said,
what kind of station was KTU at the time?
It was nothing. It was a country station.
It was a country station.
Yeah, they just bought it.
Wow.
So you were the first, like you would say, the first show.
Well,
First,
it was right as, in other words, right as they're changing format.
They bought the country station.
Right.
Okay. First, they bought the call letters. The original KTU is 92.3. That KTU. That was the original Paco and all those legendary DJs, Von Hopper and whatnot. Joe Causey. Joe Causey's ratings were through the roof. He was doing mornings there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny Joe Causey story after this. So I didn't want to do it. He says, please, I need a favor. I did it. And then at the end, the station manager said, I'd like you guys to take the night shift. And I'm like, I'm not looking for a job. And the guy goes, no, you don't understand. You're supposed to be doing this. This is your life's work. And I never had anybody speak like that to me. He goes, go home, think about it. And, I started off, I was the lowest paid at the station, by leaps and bounds. And, then I just kind of exploded for me. But the Joe Causey story is hysterical. Joe Causey was on 92 KTU, and I was a kid. And there was a club in Westchester called 21 North. And Joe Causey appeared there every Sunday night. And I would go up to him and I'd think, hey, Joe, they pay you for this? He goes, yeah, sure, kid. I said, how much do they pay you? So he goes, it's none of your business. Right? So I would do this every week. I would break his balls. Every week. Right? This is the 80s. Fast forward, it's 1996. Joe Causey and all the jocks are there, the original KTU jocks. Diane Pryor, Bill Lee, Hollywood Hamilton,
Broadway Bill Lee.
Michelle Visage, Paul, all of them are there. Joe Causey's there. So I said, Joe, nice to meet you. He goes, nice to meet you. I said, do you remember me? He goes, no. He goes, I don't think I ever met. I said, do you remember, I used to come up to you in 21 North and ask you how much money you make? He goes, you son of a bitch. He goes, I wanted to kill you. He goes, but you were too big. He goes,
That's great.
It's so funny. He goes, that was you? I said, yeah, that was me, Joe. We couldn't stop. Like, we still laugh today about it. Yeah.
Speaking of being too big, like the first couple times that I met you, I always thought that you had the physique of like a bodybuilder or like an athlete, and then I found out that you played for the Jets and for the Giants, two hometown teams.
Yeah, well, when I got out of college, I signed a free agent contract with the Jets, and then the following year with the Giants. I have to say, even though I wasn't able to play for either team, I was very proud that I was able to sign the contracts and wear both the helmets.
What was your number on the Giants?
51.
I'm a Giant.
Yeah, right, because that's the only one that
50,
matters. though.
51. 51, yeah.
Nice.
51. I have pictures. I kept my contracts and some pictures that I have. I wasn't big on saving. I don't know about you, Sal. I never. My mother used to ask me all the time, "How come you don't save any of your articles?" Or "How come you don't save this and that?" And I was so cocky. I used to say, "Because there's going to be more." And she goes, "Well, you're gonna wish that you saved it." I said, "No, I'm making more." And that was my attitude. I was really like a thick-headed, kid. And when I look back and now, I wish I saved the pictures.
But there are more articles. There has
True.
been more
Yeah.
publication.
Well, yeah. I mean, always.
Imagine you were on two professional teams, sports teams, and that's not the most memorable part of your career. That's a pretty incredible thing to be able to say.
My
Very well
athletic
said.
career. That was the peak of my athletic career. It was good. It was a nice accomplishment. I mean, I came from a very small school. I was told that I was the only one. I was the first one to sign a contract from that school. I just remember the first day we went to jet camp. There were more people at practice than there were at my games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, that was embarrassing. You know what I mean? I said, I came out, and I was with Marty Lyons, who was the number one pick at the time. And I said, I can't believe how many people are here. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, there's more people here at practice than there was at my games. And he goes, you're kidding, right? I said, dude, I didn't play at Alabama.
Yeah, right.
I played at State University at Brockport. It was too cold to come to our games. We get maybe 200 people.
How'd you get picked up from Rockport?
You know what? I mean, it's weird. They'll find you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I remember when I was a junior.
And what position did you play?
I played defense in college,
Okay.
but they switched me to offense when I got to the pros, center and guard.
You were a lineman.
Yeah, it was 265.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like 200 now, but I look like this, but 60 pounds heavier, 65. And I was fast. I could run. I was strong. I bench pressed 500.
Wow.
He's
Now-
200 pounds and I'm 200 pounds.
Yeah, and I
Look at the
bench pressed
difference.
I bench pressed 500 in 1980.
Wow.
It was 40 years ago. So I was and then to continue with that, after football, I became a competitive power lifter.
Wow. So
And-
but what brings you to the nightclubs?
Oh, the nightclubs. Oh, well, I was a bouncer.
So you're basically
Well, I mean, when once I
huge. Yeah.
yeah, it was gigantic. I mean, I worked at all the nightclubs. Fought all the kids.
And, well, that's the,
Fought half the Bronx and Westchester.
that's why nightclub owners like to hire big guys, because typically there wouldn't be any fights.
Well, yeah,
Bigger guy
I mean,
at the door.
things were different, Sal. I mean, I'm an older guy now, and to go to a nightclub when I was growing up, the first nightclub I worked at, the gentleman had to wear a sports jacket,
Yeah.
and the ladies had to wear a dress to get in.
Really?
Yeah, to get in.
Different
Wow.
ball game now.
Yeah, so I mean, now it's like who could look the worse? You know what I
Two
mean?
Band-Aids and a leaf.
Yeah, whoever looks like they just woke up. Come on,
Forget it.
yeah.
These guys pay $800 for jeans. It makes them look like they got thrown in a wood chipper.
Yeah, I don't get that.
My mother grew up with perspective. So, she basically was like, I'm not spending $180 so my kid could wear jeans with holes in them.
Right,
She took me to Old Navy.
right,
She said, pick out a pair of jeans.
right.
Then she brought in my father.
Uh-huh.
Said, here, he wants them cut. So my father cut a hole in the knee.
Right.
And within a week, it completely separated. Like they just,
And you had shorts.
right, basically. Like one leg was all the way down halfway. And I wore them like 3 days that week.
Oh, what do they call them? Shorts.
Right.
Shorts. Yeah, that's.
But it was just one leg,
yeah,
John.
yeah.
So
One leg.
after 3 days of wearing them, because I thought they looked cool at school, I looked homeless. Like I had one leg was hanging off completely.
That's a great story.
Yeah, my mother thought it was ridiculous.
Well, you see, I grew up in
Yeah.
I graduated high school in the 70s and the 80s and whatnot, and the sensibilities of every generation is so different.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like now, I have nieces and nephews, and I didn't realize how uncool I was. You know what I mean? Until I had, I don't have any kids, so I got nieces and nephews to tell me how uncool I am. And it's weird because everybody's having problems with it today because we all grew up with different set of sensibilities. And these young kids today have no patience. You know what I mean? They don't know how to teach, they know how to preach.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you got to give Uncle Johnny a chance. I mean, you're throwing a lot of stuff at me. Gender fluid? Gender fluid? I said, you better, it sounds like you need brake fluid. Slow down, man. What are you doing? I don't even know what you're talking about. There was no such thing when because there's things today, there was like no such things when I was growing up. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, whoa, this is like coming at me. And I'm like, I need a break.
Listen, I'm living in it. And, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to learn.
What would you say is the average sensibility of someone that lived in the 70s and 80s as like a teenager, like how you were talking about?
Things were more black and white. I think that's the best explanation. You know what I mean? Kids, growing up was just so different. Your friends, you would hang out with them outside. People had to come over your house, and people used to visit you, with coffee and cake.
Yeah.
You never hear that anymore. People go, I'm gonna bring some cake over. We'll have coffee together. I think socially it was a lot more meaningful than texting or hitting somebody up on Instagram. Like,
Definitely.
I've been thinking about you.
You got to find somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to go around the neighborhood looking for bikes on front lawns.
Did you?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
if
that was
you saw bikes on someone's front lawn, you knew that all your friends were there.
Yes.
And you'd knock on the door and just go
I
inside.
didn't. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. But we used to just, guys used to hang out in the
It was
corner.
more meaningful. You're right.
Yeah. And it's, hey, look, things change, times change, and if you're, you could either change with them or, or stick to your guns or do a little bit of both. That's what I've done.
You said something important before: teaching versus preaching.
Yeah.
There's a way that we can honor the values of yesteryear, the social values, and yet reach new social heights, and progress as a society.
Well, what you're saying is exactly what I preach. Some of my sensibilities that I grew up with are no good.
Well, you're learning.
Yeah. But some of the sensibilities that I grew up with are good.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about some of the sensibilities today. I feel some of them are really, really good, and some of them I have trouble understanding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or just don't work for me. But the problem is that I feel like you're being suppressed as far as the ability or to be fortunate enough to express yourself. If you disagree with somebody, you could possibly lose your job or become ostracized from your circle of friends and whatnot. And I feel that's a heavy price to pay.
I have, I have experience with people on all ends of the spectrum because of where I grew up and because of the business that I'm in. And I think that there's not a lot of opportunity to learn. I think because there's not a willingness to teach and not just to teach.
Disagree.
I don't think it's a teaching and learning thing.
No, disagree. You have, if you do not disagree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not allowed to disagree, disagreeing is the spontaneous combustion of learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I can learn from you if I disagree with
Exactly.
you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And vice versa.
That's
Called free thinking.
Right.
That's 100% what I was getting at.
Yeah, I
was
thought that's what you were trying to say.
If you disagree with somebody, right? There might be something that you don't understand about this situation.
Right.
But if that person then takes that disagreement as you taking up arms against their way of life,
Right.
or it because there is so much hate in the world today, people become extremely defensive. Now, to your point of people losing their jobs over, either disagreeing, either not knowing enough,
Yeah.
or
Misspeaking.
misspeaking. Right.
Yeah.
It could be just the simple, simple ignorance.
Right.
I don't think people should lose their job over ignorance. Ignorance and negligence are two completely different ways to screw up your job.
You're 100% right.
Knowing something is wrong and doing it anyway.
Yeah, it's
You know?
it's totally different.
Don't you guys think it's kind of changing though? Like I've kind of gotten the vibe. I feel like pre-COVID the pendulum was so one way, and now I feel like people are getting more of a tolerance slowly. I just feel like it's not as bad as it was like a year ago.
I think
Just, like, put it that way.
I think what you're trying to say is people are less afraid to speak up now.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're
I
right.
kind of noticed that. Like they're getting like
People are starting to defend themselves.
yeah.
Well, you had for a while you had people who weren't afraid to speak up, who were completely ignorant, and then you had people who weren't, and on both ends of the spectrum, ignorant of past sensibilities and how to change them,
Right.
and ignorant of today's day and age and where we're at and where we're going as a society. But now we're hearing the centrists a little more.
It's like politics. If you're emotionally involved in a candidate or a party, you are easily manipulated.
Right.
Yep.
You're not thinking in terms of policy. And,
If you're emotionally
Right.
invested in any kind of politician, you will be manipulated very easily. So I'm me personally, I like to cherry pick.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not I'm a registered independent, and I
I'm
like
with you.
What?
Same.
I'm totally with
Yeah,
you.
and I think the bulk of the country is going that way.
My personal opinion is the two-party system has failed this country because people pick them like sports teams, and that's not. We're not looking for one side to win. We're looking for everyone to win.
Yeah.
Everybody has to win.
Well, yeah, and that's just not the way it is today, unfortunately.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I always use this kind of analogy. We're all on a ship together, right? Are you all gonna try to throw the captain overboard, or are we all gonna
Yeah.
are we all gonna make it across shore together?
Yeah.
Like that's like
Yeah.
everyone. I feel like wants someone to walk the plank. In other words, like
A lot of mutiny.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy world that we live in right now, and hopefully it'll all straighten out.
Yeah, War said it best. Why can't we be friends?
Why can't we be friends, right?
What do you think the future holds, John? Like having been you obviously have more years of wisdom than Sal and I. We're both old souls, but
That's
you know
a
you have
backhanded
the
thing to say.
I don't.
I'm sorry.
I don't.
No.
I don't know.
I don't know where
I don't know
you
how
got
you're
that from.
defining wisdom, first of all. But I've been around the block, and you know what? Things seem to work themselves out eventually, and sometimes things have to get, in many cases, worse before they get better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only thing that seems to band people together is some kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
You would think that people would rise above and there would be some kind of unusual consciousness and people would join hands and say, let's do this together like you brought up. But the only thing that brings people together is like these horrific weather things or
Right.
or war
Right.
or this, and then everybody goes, okay, well, we got to put our differences aside. And I'm like, why can't we do that without
Yeah.
a hurricane or some kind of attack against the country or whatever it may be?
Right.
And I think it shows how ignorant we are as a society.
You basically had that firsthand experience being a broadcaster during 9/11.
Yeah, I was on the air
Yeah.
during the thing, and really just indescribable. Our radio station was in Jersey City, directly across 1.5 miles away from both train centers.
Wow.
Clear view of the trade, and that I don't know if you guys probably won't remember, but that day there wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
It was one of the clearest days that I could remember in my whole life. And our tower, where we broadcast from, was on the Trade Center. We were the only FM station that had their tower on the Trade Center. Everybody else was on Empire State Building. So when the plane hit, our tower went down, and it immediately went to the secondary tower, which was on the Condé Nast building. So we saw the planes go in. I was on the air. It was me, Michelle Visage, Speedy, and my executive producer Mike, and a couple other interns. And I saw the plane go in, and I said a plane accidentally flew into the Trade Center.
Everyone thought it was an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw the second one go in, and I knew it was. And at the time, Michelle Visage was pregnant with her second child. Everybody left. I stayed. I continued to broadcast. I was single. I didn't have any kids or whatnot. So, the people had families, it was important for them to go home, especially Michelle. She was pregnant.
We didn't know what was going on.
We had no idea. And I stayed at the station that night. I slept under my desk. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
And, I continued to broadcast, for a couple of days. And it was unusual because people were calling me up, listeners were calling me up, women, whose husbands worked on Wall Street.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? I haven't heard anything from my husband or this or that or whatever it may be.
Hoping to get word out over the broadcast.
Yeah, and it was really, the whole thing was virgin ground. You know what I mean? The feelings, the emotions, the event, everything. Nobody knew how to handle it. Nobody knew what was going on. And you put the TV on and they were replaying it, and it was just overwhelming.
What was it like for you a couple days after? Like you said that you slept under your desk.
Yeah.
You like.
Well, that's like
kept
that's
on
like
going
a
with the
child of
broadcast.
that's like a child of the '60s thing.
Yeah.
Sleeping under the desk because,
Nuclear bomb.
Right.
Yeah, nuclear attack. So after that, the station put me up in Manhattan. Oddly enough, the PATH train was still running. So I can get in Jersey City, I would get on the PATH train and get back in the city. And then I stayed in a hotel in Midtown. And the city was eerily quiet. People didn't look at each other. People didn't talk. It was really, really unusual. The whole atmosphere, the whole emotional atmosphere, everything. It was all, crazy stuff. And then I would just go back and broadcast and whatnot. And, then, we tried to station and a lot of jocks, and we tried to contribute to the, to the not only the rebuilding but the removal. I mean, there was just so much going on, And at the time, my brother was a firefighter in Manhattan, so I was invested in it also. So it was rough. A lot of people lost their lives, and it just still to this day. It's tough to live with.
It's like everybody in New York who was alive at the time, whether you're young or you're old, you either know somebody or know somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah, there's that 6 degrees of separation with that.
Who was involved.
Yeah, it was. I would love to say that I wasn't scarred from it, but that's not the truth. It's something that you should be scarred from.
It changed New York forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did to a certain extent. And like we said, we were talking about, disasters, seem to bring people together.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not something that you want,
No.
And, the city came back. You know what I mean? And I think that's proof that, the country came back, and, whatever we're going through now, we can come back from that too.
Yeah.
Ironically, I was just having this conversation with one of my friends, and she was like, "I was listening to Goumba Johnny on the radio as it happened."
Yeah.
We just happened to be talking about
Right.
the whole experience.
Yeah, you're going to be part of people's experience of that day
Well, it's
for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because every year on 9/11, I get a handful of emails from people just like that. And they say, I want to thank you for, for what you did,
Right.
whatever.
It's a world that predates podcasts,
Yeah.
Spotify,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
MP3. Most people when they're 9:00 in the morning when they're coming into work are listening to the radio.
I will tell you, it's not a funny story, but it's a story that's kind of cool. After this has all gone down, obviously the stock market closed and stocks bottomed out and so on and so forth. And airline stocks
Of course, yeah.
went bottomed out. So I went on the radio, and then the government was encouraging people, even small investors, to get back into the economy. So I went on the air and I said, "Look, this is a great opportunity. You don't think I'm crazy, but I would invest in airline stocks right now, right? You know what I mean?" I said, "Believe me, air travel is a necessity.
Right,
It's
it's gonna come
gonna
back.
it's gonna come back." I didn't think anything of it. Mr. Cool, with his great advice, didn't even take it. Didn't take it. Right?
You didn't buy any airline stock.
Nothing. But it was just, and
You had no kids and a great job at the time.
yeah, I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't need any more money. You know what I mean? I had enough money to buy to buy whatever I wanted.
Yeah,
Right?
whatever you wanted at the time.
Yeah, I was,
right.
I was a dope. Didn't take my own advice. A woman and her husband get in touch with me 5 years later. Okay, call me up on the radio and they go, "We want to thank you." Thank me for what? We were able to buy a house because we took your advice.
Shut up.
Wow.
And we invested our money in
How much did they make?
They didn't tell me.
They didn't
You
tell
know which
you?
airline? Just out of curiosity,
Well,
or the
I
airlines?
I
You
don't
didn't
know.
get into specifics.
Yeah,
no,
right.
I didn't
How
get-
sick are you when you get that phone call? Like
no, you know what?
you're happy for them, but at
Yes.
the same time you're like,
Yes.
fuck me.
Yeah. No, I wanted to say, well, you got room for me?
Yeah, right.
How about a little something for the effort?
A little kick upstairs.
You got a mother-in-law apartment that I can move into? Because I'm not doing that good right now. But that was one of the things that came out of it that I thought was interesting. But like every year around September 11th, I get a handful of emails, and it's very sweet. And
Everyone says that they remember where they are, what they were doing when JFK was shot, when Michael Jackson died.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, I don't remember. I was fortunate enough to meet him. He did some appearances with us.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Did you get to talk to him much off air?
I got a little bit.
Even briefly, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
What was that experience like?
My boss was very friendly with him, and he thought very highly of him. So friendly, he used to stay at his house with his family.
Oh.
And, he said Michael was very intelligent, super smart, and said he could be very manipulative.
Yeah.
And I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, he's that way because every day of his life, people are trying to manipulate him. And I never thought about that angle, because everybody wants something from him. Everybody's trying to get something out of him.
Yeah.
And in order to counteract that, he had to become, he became manipulative himself.
Right.
Even
from when he was a child.
Yeah, but he was he's the guy is, you could see the guy was nobody's dummy.
Right.
At all. I mean, it was Michael Jackson. He was, in person, he was ridiculously frail.
Were
They said
you
childlike? Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculously frail, very, like excessively thin. Being Italian, you'll get it. I mean, if he walked into,
Don't you eat?
yeah, you come over here, have a meatball. You could probably watch the meatball go through his whole body. and come out his ass.
Were you ever starstruck by anyone? Because you've obviously met, like,
I met it.
hundreds.
I interviewed just about everybody.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
were you ever like, holy shit, like, I'm gonna?
Yeah, it's
interview
funny.
this
I get asked
person?
that. I get asked that question a lot. Yeah, Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, I would be too.
Because I grew up watching Grease,
Of course.
and she was right next to me, and I'm like, I looked at her. We were off air. I said, I can't believe it's Sandy D. And she looks at me. She goes, John, I'm not Sandy D.
Yeah, right.
And then
Yeah.
she started laughing. I said, you're Sandy D to me.
That's right.
And I was like, she was angelic. She was, because you meet people, and sometimes they're not what you think you are. I mean, like you meet famous people.
Say, don't meet your heroes.
And you're like, but you meet famous people, and you're like, how did they do it? This is a friggin' moron. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, this was an act of God. You know what I mean? And then you meet people, they walk in, and they have an aura.
Right.
And you're like, these people were destined
Sandy D had the aura.
for
She
great.
was legit. She was legit.
She was legit. Will Smith, too.
Really?
Yeah, Will Smith. What amazed me about Will Smith, I worked with him quite often. And when I say quite often, at least 6 to 8 times I did appearances with him. It's
More often than I've worked
Yeah,
with
right.
Will
I was
Smith.
gonna say
Planet
that's
Hollywood.
pretty often.
Yeah, so his draw, the amount of people that liked Will Smith, 8 to 88. Brown, white, yellow, male, female, gay. His all across the board appeal like no other star I have ever seen before in my life. And he tremendously loved, and people really, he was one of the guys, like when the Oscar thing happened, it really crushed me.
Especially as a comedian.
Well, as a comedian, as someone that spoke to this guy and got to know him a little bit, and his movie persona and his off-air persona were very similar. He was a nice person. I don't know what happened, or I don't know what happened that night. People ask me, and I'm like, looks like to me he had a nervous breakdown almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everything I knew about him, that was out of character. You know what I mean?
What's your opinion on that? Like, as a comedian?
Oh.
Like, I know it's a little outdated question, but
Yeah.
at this point, but I would love to know.
Stay off the stage, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can't take the heat.
Don't sit in the front row.
Yeah. That I go through
It's
that
like-
all the time as a comedian. Which reminds me of one of the funniest stories of my life, when I fell in love with Sal. I don't know if you know it.
Let's hear it.
We were performing, all right, at the Friars Club. This is a true story. And we were doing comedian, singer, comedian, singer, comedian, singer.
It was an Italian night.
It was an Italian.
At the Friars Club.
At the Friars Club.
Which, if you don't know the Friars Club, that's hilarious in itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, long story short, singer goes on, and they sing a song, and then they stop, and they talk, and boom. So I go up before Sal, and I'm like, I grabbed the microphone. I said, let me tell you something about you singers. I said, you sing a song, and then you stop, and then you tell a joke. Okay? You're not comedians. Just sing the other song. Nobody came to hear you tell a joke here. I said, with all due respect, I said, let the comedians do the jokes tonight, right? So, Sal got a chuckle out of it. He got it. You know what I mean? I was kind of poking fun at the business.
It was almost directly at me. I felt like, okay, he was teeing me up.
No, so now it's Italian night. So, there's all kinds in the audience. So they introduce Sal after I come on. It was after me, right?
It was right after.
Right after me. So Sal's walking up the stage, and some guy in the front yells out to Sal. He goes, "Who the hell is this guy?"
No, he said, "Who the fuck is this?"
I didn't want to say. He goes, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Right? And Sal just turns around. He goes, "I'm the fucking headliner, asshole." And I I said, I love this guy. I love this guy. I've never seen a singer talk to an audience member like this.
What are you supposed to do? You're in the room.
I said, this guy's got to become my friend. That's all I said to myself. I've never heard a singer bitch a guy in the audience. I'm the fucking headliner, asshole. And he grabs the microphone and he starts singing Frank Sinatra. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he came up. You remember I came up to you? I said, I love you.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I said, I can't believe you
That was
did
a very proud moment for me.
Oh my God! For me,
to get the you know. The,
oh my God!
It was like getting honored by the Pope.
You never see a singer act like that. You know what I mean?
So Olivia Newton-John and Sal, you were starstruck by.
Sal, you know what I mean? We had. I mean, what's starstruck? I mean,
You could say no.
We had. No, there were a lot of models that came in and actresses and whatnot and actors. The one person that I'd rather say the one person that I wanted to interview and wanted to meet, I never met, and was Denzel Washington.
Wow.
I'm a huge fan.
You hear that, Denzel?
He comes from Mount Vernon, and I grew up in the Bronx, Yonkers, and I'm just admire his work. Anything he does, I watch. I'm mesmerized, by his persona and everything that he does. And I never had the opportunity to meet him, but I did some interesting interviews. I probably did the last radio interview with Luther Vandross. I think you would get a kick out of that. Yeah, he died like a couple of months later. I think it was his last interview. And I remember at the end of the interview, I said, Luther, why don't you tell us something about you that we don't know? You forget about your work. Some stuff, personal stuff. So he goes, I love to go to Jackson Hole. I love eggs on my hamburgers. That's my weakness. So
Jackson Hole.
I said, okay. I said, what else? He goes, I love wrestling. He goes, I'm addicted to wrestling.
Like WWE wrestling?
He goes, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And he goes like that. And I'm like, you what? I said, you, Luther Vandross? I said, the man who slays women with his songs? I said, you're a wrestling freak? He goes, I won't leave the room if wrestling is on. And I thought it was really cool. And
that speaks to how you're personable,
well,
nature.
When you interview
people feel comfortable.
Yeah, people. I tell you, I got interviewed by Howard Stern, and you talk about being able to relax you. Halfway through the interview, Howard Stern was interviewing me, and halfway through the interview, I just remember saying to myself, "I can't believe how much better this guy is than me." I mean,
really?
As an interview. Oh, he's just a great interviewer, and he was just all my defenses. From someone that worked on the radio for years, he was unlocking every door as I was speaking, and I was talking about stuff that I really wouldn't want to talk about. And he was just he's so good at it. That's his forte, his interview. He's just a tremendous interviewer.
I should have done my Sternology research before this.
Sternology, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Will Smith thing, I know, like what I got from that is man, wives know how to twist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never was fortunate enough to meet Jada. But it's I think it's pretty clear that there was something going on in that marriage that we weren't aware of.
Right.
And whatever Chris Rock said was lit the fuse, and the bomb went off, and Chris Rock was in the wrong place at the right time. And the cameras were there, and the damage was done.
Yeah, whenever I see a guy out super pissed off at everything wearing a ring, I know exactly why he's super pissed off. I know exactly where he just came from.
I'm married 16 years. I'm good with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I it is what it is. It's I didn't want to get married, but I did because I knew I wasn't going to meet anybody like my wife again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was a really nice person. And, she had the two things that I was looking for. And what's this guy's name again?
Greg.
Greg.
Craig. Sorry, Craig with a
Craig.
C. Everyone says Craig. That's why.
Oh, do they?
It's
Yeah.
Craig. It's Craig.
We're gonna call you PW from now on. Paperweight.
If Mo was here, he'd be dying right now.
Why? Mo's like your arch enemy?
Not arch enemy. He's just like
He's your nemesis.
everyone. He just chooses. I'm the
He's your nemesis. Yeah.
Nobody knows how to break his balls
Better than Mo.
better than Mo.
Yeah.
Mo hates his playlist. Like he like.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
Something in specific. It's something in specific that really bugs Mo about him. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
he can't stand his playlist.
What do you listen? What kind of music?
listen to everything, and he doesn't like it. He has to have
Yeah. No, I'm all over the place too. I mean, I'll listen to country, R&B.
But if you're listening to country, you'll listen to one country song and then you'll listen to another country song and then possibly another country song. You know, maybe at times switching to like Southern rock or something like
Yeah.
that. And that's how you get out of that hole.
He goes.
No, he'll go from like
French rap.
yeah.
He'll go.
French. Mo's stuck on that French rap. He put on like a French rap.
He'll go
song
from
with
he'll
his
go
lip-
from REM to Kenny Chesney.
Yeah. You see his arm?
Why does that piss Mo off?
You see how his left arm is a sleeve and his right arm is like the
Pi-
ironic hipster tattoos and everything.
That's a pineapple.
Right. There's a pineapple, there's a pig. Show him the pig.
Can
know,
you guess his previous
sections.
occupation, John?
Was he a butcher?
No. Oh, well, close.
Oh, you were a chef.
He graduated
Oh,
college.
so that's why you have food
Yeah.
all over? How interesting. Was that like when people asked for your menu, you just went like, yeah, would you like to have some pig or? Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, what is the pork loin? And he'd
Yeah.
take his arm and go, it's number whatever.
So, but you're not a chef anymore.
I work with Anthony full time now.
Yeah. So those tattoos were rather stupid, right?
Jesus Christ.
No, I mean, shouldn't you got a tattoo of a microphone now or?
Oh, true. You want to
Yeah.
know what? That's not a bad idea. You want to get more.
You should get the square. You know the iPhone with how it has the 3 cameras in the little square? You should get a little square with 3 cameras in it.
I'll just get music.
Have you ever
Lenses.
seen Wild Hogs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know when the guy Dudley gets the apple tattoo?
Oh yes. yes.
That's how I kind of picture him.
I feel like getting music notes, even though I don't think music notes.
Was it John Travolta in that movie?
John Travolta,
Wild Hogs.
Tom Hanks.
Was Martin Lawrence?
Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man. I'm a huge Martin Lawrence fan.
Yeah, love Martin.
That movie Black Knight, it's one of the most undercover comedies. If you're going to looking to rent out a movie and you
Talking
want
about the Batman movie?
no, Black Knight. Am
yeah,
I correct?
I thought he meant Batman too.
No,
I was like
Martin Lawrence.
was in Batman.
It's no Black Knight. It is hysterical.
So what's your advice for Greg on finding love?
Look for 2 things in a woman. A woman that knows a woman that knows right from wrong. That sounds very simple. Because if you get a girl that knows right from wrong, even if she makes a decision that you don't agree with, you know the intent wasn't there. And the second one is the hardest. Find a woman that's happy. And that is a tall order, my friend. And because men and women, most people are that are not unhappy right now. And my wife wakes up, want some coffee? With a smile. I'm like, why are you so happy? She's so happy, I'm suspicious. Like, calm down with this happy crap. You know what I mean? And just to start the day with my wife is just fantastic. You know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I feel very fortunate, you know, because I'm generally a happy person. Not quite as happy as my wife, but, you know, and it's funny because like when I was looking for a mate, you know, I always had this question in the back of my head. I would say, all right, find somebody good because one shithead in the family's enough. You know what I mean? I don't need another shithead. You know what I mean? I already knew what I was. So I said, don't be attracted to your female version.
Right.
You know?
What are the things that make you happy? Like, what are the things that make Goumba Johnny tick?
The gym, sweating, music, good food, the Chiefs, the Rangers, the Mets, the beach, the water, the seashore is where I really feel. When I'm in front of the ocean, I really feel my best for some reason. I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you get the ions, and there's scientific proof to that. But I feel good. You know, simple stuff. I'm not really that complicated.
Your latest career has kind of taken you to a bunch of seashores.
Yeah. I've been traveling 3.5 years with Anthony Rodia.
How was that?
Good. You know, Anthony's a real character, and the stories are hysterical.
Right.
I tell him sometimes on stage, like Anthony is like the third most generous human being I've ever met in my life. I had 2 other friends that were a little bit more generous than him. But he's very, very generous. And he likes good food, and he likes good, nice things. And he's pick up a check in 2 seconds flat. So we went to this restaurant. And I as you can see, I'm very verbal. I love to talk to people. I like everybody, almost everybody. So I didn't say anything about you. Why are you so self-conscious? So anyway, so why you can't meet anybody? Need more confidence. So anyway, we go to this restaurant, high-end steakhouse in Fort Lauderdale. So I come in, and the hostess greets us. And I said, wow, this is a beautiful restaurant. Right. So she goes, oh, thank you very much. I said, how many in your party? I said, there's 4 of us. I said, I've never been in a restaurant that has tablecloths. This is fantastic. Right? So Anthony's like, shut up. Stop with your stuff. He goes, don't pay no attention to him. Please don't pay no attention to him. So I'm laughing because I'm just trying to goof around. I'm a comedian all the time.
Right.
You get a laugh. So we sit down. Now I'm not trying to get a laugh. Anthony grabs the menu, and this is his way he does things. I'm ordering. I'm going to order all the apps. I'll order all the meat. Tell me what sides you want. I said, I want a baked potato. Okay, I know you like baked potatoes, you know. So food comes out one by one, all these really high-end appetizers, and then the meat comes out. So I take a dinner roll, and in front of me is the meat. It's already sliced. And it's like 8 pieces of meat. So I take the dinner roll, I cut it open. I'm like old school, you know. Take 2 slices of meat, I put it in the dinner roll, and I make a sandwich. And I'm eating it, and I'm going, Anthony, you got to really try this meat. It's unbelievable. He goes, you just put like 2 pieces of meat in the dinner roll, and you're eating it like that? I said, yeah. I said, it's fantastic. He goes, dude, that's Wagyu beef. He goes, that's $40 an ounce. You have an $80 steak sandwich in your hand, you moron. And I'm like, I don't know, but it tastes great. He goes, it's $80. He goes, it's $40 a slice. He goes,
It's probably really good sandwich steak because it's so tender.
I said, I couldn't stop laughing. I said, I don't know. I said, but I like it. So he goes, of course you like it. He goes, that was $320 worth of steak you're eating. So it was pretty funny. And then another time, he goes, I'm going down to Florida. I'm going a day early. It's your birthday weekend. I want to get a surprise for you. So we go to this Airbnb. I go and pull up, and there's a $400,000 Rolls Royce in the driveway. So I said, whose Rolls Royce is that? He goes, it's yours for a week. I said, it's mine. He goes, I rented it out for you a week. It's part of your birthday present. I said, Anthony, I drive a 2010 Honda Accord with 120,000 miles on it. I don't want the responsibility.
Yeah,
If I get an fender bender, I'm working the whole year for nothing. I don't need this thing. I said, I'm going to be too nervous driving it. No. It's already paid for. You got to take it.
Shout out to Joe Brady, Full Throttle Exotics.
So he goes, you don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have any other car. So I go to church. You know, I do everything I do. I pull up with the Rolls Royce. The priest is out in front. He looks at me and goes, well, somebody's prayers have been answered. And I'm like, it's a rental, Father. It's a rental. Yes, I know, son. Then I put $2 in the basket. Everybody's looking at me. Look at this, you cheap bastard. You got a Rolls Royce outside. You put $2 in the basket. Then I go to McDonald's. True story. You ever drive through McDonald's in a Rolls Royce?
No, I can't
I
say.
pull
I have.
up to the window. The kid turns around. The owner's here. The owner is here. And I'm like, I'm not the owner. I just want a large coffee. He goes, shouldn't you be at Starbucks?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and the whole trip was like that.
How'd you get into stand up from radio?
I was managing a comedy club. I did stand up first.
You did stand up first.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I was managing a comedy club. After I got out of the nightclub, the disco business, so to speak, like the music end of the nightclub, I managed a comedy club in Yonkers. And comedians didn't show up one day. And I had to get on stage and host. And that was the beginning of the end.
Right. It opened Pandora's box.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I wasn't really going to do it. And then one of the opening acts got off stage and I was the manager. He goes, how do you think I did? And I said, I'd rather not say. So he goes, no, I can take it. And I said, well, you kind of sucked the air out of the room. He goes, well, maybe you could do better. And that stuck in my head. And I said, you know what? He's right. I
Yeah.
could do better than that. So I started hosting the shows, and I didn't have to pay to host, and that gave me money to get better headliners.
Wow.
So that extra couple of $100 raised the talent level. So if I had a big headliner, back in the day, the difference between, in the 80s during the comedy frenzy, the comedians actually made more money than they're making today.
Now, what do you attribute that eye and ear for talent to? Was it the way you grew up? Was it something you watched when you were younger? Was it?
No, nothing really, because, it's funny because I'll see people that I went to high school with, and they'll come to my shows all around the country. I mean, I have Florida, Arizona, Connecticut.
Yeah.
People I went to high school with. They moved all around the country, and they'll just show up at a show. And I was very taken because they all said to me, we thought you were so funny in high school. And I said, I can't believe you said that because I kind of thought I was annoying. You know what I mean? I never thought I was funny at all. Oh, no, you were funny.
What, like the wrong reactions?
Well, no, it's just like I was kind of like a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? That kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I was funny, but there was always somebody ended up wounded. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There was always
Yeah.
a casualty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other 6 people thought it was hysterical, but the guy who I got didn't see. I remember being in high school and people being at one end of the hall and people walking down towards me, seeing me, and turning around.
Just because you were such a cranker.
Because they knew I was going to say something,
Yeah,
about what they were wearing or what they did in class.
They were getting roasted.
Yeah, I got thrown out of every class. And oh, my God.
Did your siblings think you were funny growing up?
My father was funny, but he never told a joke. My father was a New York City cop. He was a New York City detective. And, he was hysterical, but he didn't try to be. You know what I mean? He used to watch Kojak. Remember Kojak? You ever see Kojak?
Yeah.
Detective show. He would put his gun on the coffee table. And I'm like, why you got your gun on the coffee table? He goes, what if Kojak needs help? And I'm like, and you could hear my mother from the kitchen. You can't shoot the TV, Sal. Because my father's name's Salvatore.
Yeah.
You can't shoot the TV, Sal. And he would come home. He worked in Fort Apache, very busy precinct. And I just got out of jet football camp, or I was training for jet football camp. And that's all I did was train football and eat and the gym and running. And I was laying on the couch, and he comes home, takes his jacket off. He's got his shoulder holster on, gun sticking out. So he goes, Jesus Christ, you're big. He goes, what do you weigh? And I said, I don't know, about 265. He goes, wow, can't believe how big you got. Look at you. He goes, how much you bench pressing? And I said, I don't know, maybe close to 500 right now. He goes, wow, I can't believe how strong you are. says, let me ask you a question. He goes, how much do you think that garbage can weighs outside? 10, 12 pounds. You know the one you walk by every fucking day, you piece of shit? And he put his hand on his gun. I should shoot you right now. Right now. And you could hear my mother from the kids. Sal, you can't shoot the kids. You cannot shoot the kids.
So your dad was Italian. Your dad was Italian. 100%.
And like people go, why aren't you normal? And I'm like, you have no idea
Yeah.
what it was like in my house. And, like it was so funny. And I would just burst out laughing. My father would get so pissed off.
That sounds like a very normal Italian household.
Oh, my God.
What was it? It was a mixed household.
What do you mean? It was me, my brother, my sister.
No, I'm saying your father was
my
Italian.
My mother was Polish.
Right. So it was like a little fire and ice.
Well, it was weird because they used to argue. My mother used to go, Johnny boy, you don't think you got those shoulders from that Italian side, do you? Do you think you got shoulders like that from the Italian side? I said, no, Mom. And my father would walk by and he'd whisper in my ear. He goes, you don't think you got your brains from the Polacks, did you? and I'm like, I'm just glad it's not reverse. That I had the Italian shoulders and the Polish brain. So, it's so funny. But, you know what I mean? And it really killed my father. He goes, how are you going to make a living? I said, I'm going to write jokes. He goes, how are you going to pay the bills? I said, I'm going to write jokes. He goes, man, you're fucking stupider than I thought. He goes, you're not going to be able to keep the lights on, And my mother my mother was not dumb. She was extremely intuitive and very loving and kind, very special person. And she would, she was a housewife. She didn't get it. We would go out to dinner when I was on the radio, and I'd take my parents out, and the check would come, and my mother would go, Sal, I want you to pick up the check. She goes, pick up the check? What are you talking about? Why should I pick up the check? Do you know how much money he makes? And he goes, Sal, he only works 4 hours a day. He doesn't have a full-time job. My father goes, are you fucking kidding me? Are you that dumb that you think? Tell your mother how much money you make. I said, look, Dad, just leave a big tip. These people know me. And I would get and walk out. And he goes, this guy's 40 years old. I'm still paying for him. He would start screaming and the thing and fighting.
You only work 4 hours a day.
Yeah, I only work 4 hours a day. So that was my mom. My mom was like that. My mom was just a spectacular person.
She had your back.
My mom had everybody's back.
Yeah.
My mom was, without a doubt, went straight to heaven. There's no doubt about it. She was angelic. She was a very, very, very kind, loving person. I grew up, I don't want to use the word normally, but when I meet other cops' kids, I grew up as normal as you could in a cop family.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not a normal upbringing.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I definitely understand. I got a lot of cops in my family too.
Yeah, you don't end up.
Just to close out, John, and Sal could attest to this too, one of the reoccurring themes on this podcast is coming from an Italian family, it's not always easy, getting them to try to understand a career in some sort of an art form. So you just kind of touched on that with your dad. And what advice would you give to someone who's up and coming and whose parents really doesn't understand, if they want to be a comedian or if they want to, if they want to be on the radio even, anything.
You mean work creatively?
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I got this advice very early, and it wasn't from my father or my mother. You know what I mean? And it was very simple. Don't let anybody piss in your drinking water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's your dream. You don't have to fulfill it, but you have to try for it. You know what I mean? Believe me, fulfilling it isn't the end all do all. It's the journey. It's the attempt. You're only a failure when you don't try.
That's right.
And there's no such thing as failure if you try. It's a great experience. You'll chalk it up and you'll be able to use it. And my biggest thing with show business is you'll go very far if you don't look in other people's backyards. Because from my experience in show business, I've seen people who maybe less talented than I, or at least I thought so, get so much more opportunity than me. And show business is the type of thing when you work creatively, like you almost got to wait your turn.
Yeah.
And there's a little destiny involved.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to wait for a kiss in the ass from God.
I always bring up Dangerfield
Yeah.
whenever that comes up.
Love his story.
49 years
Yeah.
old, selling aluminum siding, but always funny, always
Yeah.
try and stand up, always giving it a crack. And then eventually one day he hits.
Yeah. I mean, Danny Aiello was an actor. He started at 40.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who had success late in life. And your dreams are your dreams.
You had so many seasons of success, though. I feel like,
I've been able to reinvent myself.
you've lived quite a few lifetimes.
Yeah, I've been able to reinvent myself to the point where I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like my wife goes, "Oh, you did so much," and I'm like, I feel like I did a lot, but I don't know what I've accomplished.
Right?
You know what I mean? Do you feel that way sometimes?
Sometimes, it's
Because you're so recognizable.
and it's still so early on for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I maybe have changed the way I do things. But you can look back on a life where you were a professional athlete, you were a bouncer, you managed comedy clubs, you did stand up, you toured as a stand up,
Radio.
you were a radio DJ shock jock for, what? 15, 20 years?
Yeah, about 16, 17 years.
Yeah. That's,
But I also had other jobs. I was a garbage man, Sal.
yeah.
I rode on the back of the truck. I did everything with garbage. I compacted it. I ran an incinerator back in the 70s, which is illegal now. And then I worked on a garbage truck. I was a limo driver.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So you have.
I have
you
a great
your
limo.
hands-
I drove celebrities. I got great.
I was going to say the limo stories are probably better than
Oh,
the radio
my
stories.
God. I got
100%.
I got the best. I got some of the best limo stories.
Give us one. Give us one.
One
of the
limo
stories.
story.
Just one.
I used to work with Prince. Okay?
Really?
Yes. And I'll tell the Prince story because he was the most generous celebrity I've ever worked with.
Right.
$50 to $100 a day. He stayed at the same hotel, the Rio Royal, in Manhattan. And he had a limo during the day, and he had a limo at night. And if you stayed in the limo at night, you would go back and forth to different hotels and pick up women and bring them to his room, to his hotel. My friends used to hear me, "You working with Prince? That dude's gay." I said, "Bro, you
Ain't no
have
way."
no idea. This guy is forking everything." Okay? And I'm talking about 2-3 times a night, right? So, I worked with him. This was the year 1990. So I worked with him quite often. His brother Dwayne, at the time, was the head of security. And he had other guys that I got to be very friendly with. So anyway, make a long story short, fast forward, like 14 years later, it's 2014, it's 2004. I'm on KTU. Prince is performing live in New York City, doing some kind of kickoff for an album of his. So we have him on air. He comes in, meets me. I said, goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "John, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Do you remember me?" She goes, "No, have we met?" I said, "Yeah, I used to work for you. I worked with you, your brother, Dwayne." I said, "I drove the limo for you, about 14 years ago." So he looks at me, he goes, "John?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, my God." And he just looks at me, he goes, "You're not going to say anything, are you?" So I said, "Dude," I said, "you are the most generous celebrity I've ever worked with." I said, "You don't have to worry about anything." And he goes, "Good." He goes, "Good to see you."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a life from sanitation engineer to one of the most famous radio hosts New York has ever heard.
Yeah.
Incredible stand-up, professional athlete, incredible guy overall,
Well, thank you.
and a great first guest for this version.
Yeah,
of
good luck
Breaking
with your
Bread.
podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
You guys do a great job. You're very welcoming. I don't know about your support staff, but that'll work out. You'll find good people eventually.
Yeah, Greg's all right when he doesn't totally eclipse the light.
Yeah. Wow. He's a big man.
That's why.
Hey.
That's why we break balls gently here.
I'd like to see you and Mo Mozzarella in a WWE wrestling match. Loser leaves town.
I would pay
The mow
any
down.
amount of money.
The mow down.
The Mo down.
Wow.
How
Yeah.
much money do you think that we could?
Oh my
that
God.
show? Everyone
my
that we
God.
know would like
Tens of thousands of
Everyone that
dollars.
we know would come to that.
Broadcasted live on Growing Up Italian.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I am. I'm the idea guy. So you could steal it.
Well, that's for sure going to be episode 3.
Yeah. We should have Mo on episode 3.
That's right. Well, from Anthony and myself, Johnny, thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Anytime.
John.
It's been another great episode of Breaking Bread.
Yes, and John, just from me to you, I just want to let the audience know when I started out in, I guess, whatever you can call this kind of business, John was one of the first people to give me advice, to talk me through it, to give me the time of day, and I always appreciate that, John.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You're the man.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, folks.